All right, Russian President Vladimir Putin is holding his yearly presser, and this is the third offensive since the Ukraine war started. Let's listen in.
When everything is calm and tranquil and stable, we're bored. Well, it's stagnation. We want some commotion. As soon as some commotion starts, and we see bullets whistling and time flying rapidly, we get scared to our wits. Well, it's horrible. It's a great deal of horror. But you know, it's actually not. It's all about the economy, and we start with the economy. Despite your provocative question, the economy underlies everything. It's the main foundation prescribing and determining the living standards of our people and the stability and the defensive capability. Everything is based on the economy. And the economic situation in this country, by and large, is normal, is stable. We keep advancing against all odds, despite external threats and attempts to impact us. Last year, the economic growth was at 3.6% in annualized terms, and this year it's going to be at 3.9 or even 4%. We'll have to double-check that, because at the end of the year, well, we will see some numbers, and we will recap in the first quarter 2025.
And probably the level will even be 4%, meaning that over the 4 years, the economic growth amounted to about 8%. According to experts with whom I've exchanged opinions this morning, over the past years, the figure is, as I said, it was 5.6% in the US and 0.0% in the EU. In the leading European economy, the economic growth amounts to 0, and it is estimated to be so in the coming year too. International financial institutions, economic institutions, placed Russia #1 in Europe in terms of purchasing power parity, and it ranks #4 in the world. China, the US, India are ahead of us, and we are ahead of Germany. We were ahead of Germany in the past year too, and this year we are ahead of Japan. But you know, it is not something that we should take for granted, that we should relax. Everything is in the motion, everything is moving forward and advancing. If while the European zone, the Eurozone is falling asleep, it doesn't mean that there are no other economic centers that are emerging. In the United States, the situation is evolving, so we have to keep this ratio, we have to change the quality of our economy, and there are other figures and indicators which are satisfactory, to put it mildly. One of the most serious figures and indicators for all economies of the world is the unemployment level, and it is at a record low in our country at 2.3%. It is unseen. It hasn't been seen before. It is #1. Point 2. There is a growth in some industries. The industrial growth amounts to 4.4%, and processing industry is growing at a ratio of 8.1%. In some industries, some branches, the growth is even higher. Inflation rate is an alarming signal. While I was preparing for today's press conference, I spoke to the governor of central bank. According to Ms. Nabiulina, inflation is now at 9.3, 9.9, but the income of the population has grown too. So on the whole, the situation is stable. We have some problems with inflation. The economy is a bit overheated. The government and central bank has set themselves the goal of decreasing this ratio, and according to various estimates, it is expected to be at 2 or 2.3% in order to preserve the macroeconomic indicators. It is something we should seek to achieve, and we are going to discuss it in more detail during today's press conference. But on the whole, the situation is stable. There is one clarifying question, if you allow. You cited Germany and Japan as an example. I would like to speak about Germany. You said the economic growth is at 0%, but it was previously a center of economic growth. Does it have to do with the politics and the sovereignty? Because recently, at the Russia Calling Forum, you said that when you celebrated the Gerhard Schröder's anniversary, all songs were sung in English, and there were no German songs. Yes, they were. It was a long time ago. Mr. Schröder celebrated his anniversary, and he invited me, and I attended. There was a small concert, and everyone sang songs in English, and I said even a choir of girls from Hanover presented songs in English, but there was one troupe that sang songs in German. It was the Cuban Cossack Corps. It was unexpected for me. I asked them how they learned this song, and they said, out of respect to the Germans, out of respect to the hosts, we learned this song during our travel, and we presented it in German. Later, I was approached by many guests. I'm telling you how it was, and many people told me we are ashamed. We are ashamed that only Russian Cossacks sang in German. And I said it to my colleague who was present at that forum. I told him sovereignty is an important thing. It should be deep in your heart. And I believe in the post-war era, the German people no longer feel their sovereignty. Who are Europeans? They are proud of being Europeans. But above all, they are French, German, Italian, Spanish, and only after that they are Europeans. But instead, they try to polish things. And in the end, you see it impacting everything, including the economy. I mentioned the economic growth in our country, and largely it is a result of strengthening of our sovereignty that is projected on the economic situation. Many producers lost our market. Where does it bring us? Our industrialists started producing these same products. It necessitated various research, so we involved various institutions, including development institutions. And on the whole, it translated into the strengthening of our technological sovereignty. There might be different sovereignty in the fields of education, industry, military. It is important for our country, and for our country it is of particular importance, because if we lose sovereignty, we lose our statehood. That's crucial. And strengthening the sovereignty is also a result of economic growth. Mr. President, now I suggest that we move on to questions from our citizens. You mentioned the economic growth. Indeed, if we look at the economic figures, they look all right. Most of Russian plants are working tight, but the payments are below the inflation. We have made a rating of regions in which citizens asked most questions about price growth. It was in Kamchatka, in Sakhalinsk region, and in the most western region of our country, in Kaliningrad Oblast. And the price growth was a relevant question in Irkutsk. I will add some more figures. Our GigaChat provides us with some statistics. Most popular questions had to deal with price growths of bread, fish, and butter. They also ask about growing fuel prices, and those are just a few question categories that we have seen. And according to Rosstat, the Russian statistics body, we see that fruit and vegetable prices have grown by 3.4% over the past week. In particular, cucumbers got 10% higher, and the price grew by 43% over the past 10 months since November. Those who are following our work via internet may know that when I spoke about the economic growth, the price growth, and high inflation rate, but apart from that, there is income growth and the growth of salaries. Well, we have a vast country, and some people might say, how can we speak about the welfare growth? But at the same time, some people would say that the income was reduced.